Maybe about the vampire, actually, because you know it's a kind of. Okay, it seems that it started working on YouTube too. Right, guys, so thank you for your patience, and we figured out all these issues. So let's move on. So today talk, as I promised, would be about the vampire, the new beast in Beast Tower. As you might notice, we like the word beast, that's why sometimes we use it too much. This is a kind of monster which I would say follows the idea of the whole universe of monsters, actually mutants, and human beings, whom you choose from as your type of gameplay. As you remember, human raiders are about exploring the haunted city and competing for these treasures, while monsters do hunt raiders and try to kill them, actually to feast on them in order to get the upper hand in their struggle for the title of the alpha of the haunted city. So, why vampire? So, just to start answering this question, first of all, we need to say that we already had a werewolf, of course, as our first beast, because the general idea of Beast Tower was that we have parkour and werewolves. That's why werewolf was chosen as a kind of a creature we all in our team really like as a mystical being. And it was really good choice for the idea of chasing parkour people, because werewolves can climb, run, use their fangs, and use their, I would say, paws in order to climb any vertical height. So one of the great sources of inspiration was some scenes of the Underworld movie when you can see werewolves climbing walls and even sailing. That's why we just chose them as our first signature beast. And of course, when we came to an idea that we want to have only werewolves as monsters in Beast Tower, we of course decided that our next creature should be a vampire, just because it's very popular, and by all means people started asking if we are gonna make this type of a monster, because, well, you know that in the last 2 decades, I believe in most pop media, like comic books, movies, games, there was put forward the idea of, you know, this never-ending war between vampires and werewolves, just because it seemed to be a cool thing. When we started thinking about what kind of vampire would suit Beast Tower, we had, you know, three main ideas. First of all, we didn't want the vampire to look like a human. We wanted vampire to be exactly a monster. So we just, on the very start, you threw away of a Dracula-looking man, you know, with this long cloak, with this nice hair, and this fangs, which just you can see a bit from his top lip. Then we decided, okay, if it's not a human, then it should be a monster. As you know, in most movies, I mean, like the mentioned Underworld or Van Helsing, the monster vampire is a kind of a creature with human-looking arms and wings on their back. But you see, we didn't want to copy this idea because we want this creature to look a bit unique, and as usual, vampires are often compared to bats and actually do some bat magic. We decided that bat-looking creature would be nice because we also wanted a completely different system of movement for a vampire, that it should be a flying one. So we decided that we should move with the idea of combining both hands and wings, so it looks like a giant bat creature. So we needed to make a whole system of these wings coming tight, so they don't prevent the creature from running around, and when you jump, you just move your arms spread, and that's why you being able to have this wings, bat-looking wings, which let you to glide around the map. Gliding was chosen as an idea for aerial movement because, you know, just having actual flight when you just can change height and go up and down whenever you want turned out to be a bit too overpowered. That's why for the exchange of the ability to move around the location without no limits, because you just go over any obstacles, you pay with this limit that you need to climb or use a special ability in order to raise upper in the air, and each time the vampire is flying, when he notices a prey down, he needs just to dive on it, and that's why I lose height. So the whole idea was just climbing and gliding and diving. The whole gameplay circle would be around that. While we were developing the vampire, we decided that we needed some cool references, I mean gameplay references, not only visual ones. In this case, we chose as our main idea the vampires our time in order to being able to create.
Please, sorry for interrupting, but there is something with our streams.
Really? What's up now?
Oh, it started again.
Okay.
Yeah,
It was just, I think it was a small break. Again, guys, I mean, sorry for some technical issues. We just, before the launch, I just checked the settings, everything seemed to be cool, but internet is internet. That's why sometimes some breaks may occur. Sorry for that. I hope it doesn't took for us too long to be offline. Okay, so what I was talking about the break, that we combined two references for our vampire. It was the vampire from the, you know, quite an old game, Nightgod, and Batman Arkham Knight. So this idea of gliding around and falling on your prey and all stuff just came together in our case, because it's a very good practice to check some ideas before you use them, and the best way to do it is just to see how it was implemented in some other games. So it's kind of a thing which really helps us out and saves our time. Alright, so Dario, before I move to the next part of our talk about the vampire, could you please check if we do have some comments or some questions?
No, actually, still not.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I would ask you to just drop a line or two in our Discord, I mean English Discord, just to let guys...
Yeah, I've already did it.
Okay, so if some dudes would just drop the questions right there, I think it wouldn't be a problem to answer them. Alright, so then when the general idea of movement and of the visual was came to our mind, and we decided that yes, that's the thing which we're gonna do, we decided to think about the gameplay of this creature, because as you know, each, similar to werewolf, the monster, the beast, it has a couple of abilities which it should be using in order to get the upper hand. So first thing, we decided to have the shift ability that allows the monster to fly into the sky. Just you can use it on the ground and it lifts you quite on a high distance, so there you can fly away from a danger or use your diving move to attack the prey which you left on the ground. It's a really good thing because vampire can't just fly up. It needs to climb somewhere, to use parkour, beast parkour, in order to get height, in order to be able to glide from that. And this ability somehow moves you up. The second ability was the idea of a powerful wing flap, which allows you to put a huge gust of wind in order to knock away your opponents and also bring them to the ground for a short period of time. So you can both use it in order to, for example, throw away a werewolf who is nearly ready to kill you, or you can use it to stalk a raider who tries to avoid your attack, for example by just bashing the opponent into the wall and just avoiding their some escape move which he or she can use in order to get away from a vampire. That's what I would say the base ideas for this beast which were put forward and which we started playtesting. So, you see, for quite a time we were a bit worried about showing you the current visual of a vampire, because as you see, it's not really the finished one. So, after some time and playtesting, we actually decided that we have a quite dedicated community who won't be frustrated by seeing some work in process results. And actually we were very happy that people were excited about this creature, and nobody cared much that it's still in a gray form where we are just working on a draft model, which lets us to check the gameplay and figure out if all the visuals are working correctly. So I would appreciate if you drop a comment or two about how do you like this approach of ours of showing, you know, work in progress things, I mean really work in progress things, and if you would be interested in trying out the vampire, if we just, or any other character who would be exactly in such a well draft form for our closed alpha playtests. So just let us know, please.
There is actually an interesting question. It's not completely about our game, but that's interesting. What's the most easiest boss fight you have ever done in video games you have played that don't use teams?
Okay, that you are on your own.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I would say that okay, you see, if some boss fight was so easy that you even just didn't feel it, that you are most likely not to remember it, honestly speaking. But what I can tell you about my easiest and most strange boss fights ever, it was the first boss of Dark Souls 3. The point is that, well, I like the aesthetics of Dark Souls, and you can easily see the vibes of the series in Beast Tower, but I'm not a kind of a person who is ready to spend countless hours of making attempts to just finish a monster or some boss and so on and so on. But still, I was really interested in the game, and after talking with my mates in our team who are big fans of Souls series, they just asked me, okay, if you want to try this game, just play the third one, because it's the top game in the series and you will see the most that devs put forward. That's why just try out that. If you like it, you may finish all others just later. Okay, so I got the game, I installed it on my PC, and just started going through. Well, I died several times, I believe, while figuring out some controls, or just because I wanted to learn how to parry, which is, I know, it's not a typical thing for Dark Souls 3 where I can use a shield usually, if you are playing a knight. And then I came to the very first boss. I mean, you know, Daria, if I'm not mistaken, you also played Dark Souls 3, right?
Yes, you know, when I thought about this question, I also thought about the first boss in the third Dark Souls.
You see,
because I killed this boss from the first try.
Well, I can't.
And I was shocked.
You see, I can't say that I killed it from the first try, but before that, I just heard so many stories and heard so many memes about Dark Souls 3, that how it's hard, how you suffer, how patient you should be. Well, and when I was fighting this boss, I thought, okay, there should be some smart tactics. I should be really quick on my fingers to avoid any attacks and to, you know, be really thinking about what I should be doing. Then, after dying maybe 2, 3, or maybe 4 times, which I believe it's nothing in Dark Souls, honestly, I just somehow got a bit angry and just approached the boss on the closest distance possible and just started smashing the button. Of course, I would miss some hits and I would lose some HP, but what I figured out that it turned to be the most efficient strategy, just coming close and hit. I believe it was a kind of a joke from the devs, because all the previous games, which people are likely to finish before moving to Dark Souls 3, people already learned that the most stupidest tactics in this game, it would be just bashing things, and that's why I believe they chose this type of design for this boss. But you see, if we also talk about some nice boss fights, which I won't say would be the easiest ones, but not long ago I finished the game called, this marvelous remake of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is Shredder's Revenge.
Yeah.
And there are so many cool things. I would need to notice that, of course, I was really fond of this game because it's a big part of nostalgia from my childhood of playing all these games on 8-bit consoles, on 16-bit consoles, and it was just a kind of a thing every dude in the school was talking about. And yeah, it was just these great vibes of your childhood, which would play the crucial role of liking this title. Finally, some bosses there were quite repetitive, but I really liked the huge boss, when you need to fight the whole Statue of Liberty, which is captured by Crank, and it's really cool. But it also turned out to be not really hard one, because if you just come close to the statue, just there is, a kind of a crushed bridge, and it just comes close to this bridge, and if you stand there, you are likely to avoid most of the attacks, honestly. And also turned out to be a real simple one. So that's the thing. And I really, really like the fact that you also figured out to be... You named the Dark Souls boss the easiest boss fight. It's really makes a point.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Oh, okay. So do we have any other questions about this tower?
No, maybe we should back to our topic.
You see, and also a very interesting point in designing Vampire was the approach to designing the holding ability. In this tower, werewolves have a special ability which allows them to hold and to spot the closest raider to them, actually to put a wall hack on your prey and to see the trail it leaves behind you, which lets you find the prey and chase it easily. When we were designing Vampire, we thought, okay, this is a different monster, a different beast, so we need to think about something different. So it should be something similar to its visual of a bad-looking creature. So we thought about a kind of a scream or kind of sonic wave, which allows you to use, such kind of a, I would say, maybe a cone of sound, which lets you to, somehow strike through the buildings and notice somebody who would get caught in this cone. But you see, even at the point of discussing this ability, just having a paper design, it turned out that it had so many issues with our current systems of game mechanics that we decided that we won't change that. And also, I need to notice that we already have many designs for new raiders and new beasts. And when we were discussing this, every time a fellow or two of ours would say that, okay, let's make a new hauling ability, because a new way to hunt And actually, we just turned out that it is the current design is the most efficient one. Maybe we will change it later, but now, for now, we think that it's no point in changing it. So that's the situation with that. All right. So, if we don't have any questions regarding the vampire right now, I would talk a bit about something really different, but I can't help sharing it with you guys. So, Daria, could you check for the comments?
Yeah, I've checked them and
Okay.
there is nothing.
Okay. Then the situation is the following one. You see, you have been asking us that if there would be possible to use the controller in Beast Tower, and I would always say yes, but it's not our top priority right now, and it's completely true, and nothing changed honestly from the time when I asked this question for the very recent time. But just about maybe a week or two ago, one of our QA guys noticed that he just occasionally connected the controller to his PC while checking the game, and it turned out that it worked. Well, honestly speaking, I didn't just give much thought about that, because I thought it to be just, well, maybe some glitch or some bug took place, and maybe it just, well, a person just made some kind of a wrong perception of the situation. But today, for the sake of interest, me and guys from our team decided just while testing one thing in our gameplay build to check out if the controller works. And after setting up several settings in the Steam, it turned out that yeah, the controller actually works. Of course, it doesn't have the buttons which we would, you know, use 100%. But honestly speaking, it was really funny that the default setup of the buttons which Steam offers by itself, everything worked pretty nice, honestly, and it was a very shocking experience for playing Beast Tower with a controller. Well, I think that we should playtest it a bit more, and well, it's really cool. I would even say that there it would be a good idea for making maybe a post or something like that, because you know, I would love to learn what people think about their setup of buttons, because you see, Beast Tower is quite a dynamic game where you should use both analog sticks in order to move around and to move the camera around, yeah? That's why you are not really good in using, you know, if we talk about the, for example, PlayStation gamepad, so the cross, which is not really suitable to use if you need to use it frequently, because you have your finger occupied by the left stick, and the same comes with the 4-button part of the gamepad, that you don't have the opportunity to remove your finger from camera control. That's why you need to use a lot of shift buttons in order to be able to control your character easily. For example, like shooting or maybe even jumping. So what I would really be interested about figuring out what people think is if, well, guys, I'm more used to PlayStation controller rather than Xbox One. That's why I would use that as an example. From my point of view, they are, well, quite similar to one another. Sorry if I'm just messing around with people who don't think differently. Well, I just say my personal feeling. So what's just is curious for me, if it's a good idea to put a jump, which is a frequent move in Beast Tower, on the cross, or we should use some shift. So just drop some comments about that. And Daria, what actually do you think about this setup of
I
buttons?
think it's a great idea that we can play with a gamepad because yeah, it's true that people often ask about it. but I'm not sure about button setups
Yeah, I think
because
that maybe we should just make a kind of a post about that,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I would
I think
I'd
we
literally
should.
love to learn what people think, what they consider about that. Because you know what we have right now, it's just the default Steam out of the box solution. So it just works because it works. So we even were surprised that it works because we didn't plan it and didn't test it. And of course, I can't say that all the buttons are quite what, for example, I would choose for them, but still everything is working. And it's not the way that you need to break your fingers in order to make this or that move. And that's nice. That's really cool. So Derry, and Derry, do you have a controller?
Yes,
And which
yes,
one?
I have. From Xbox.
From Xbox. So what you can do is just launch the development build in Steam and just connect the controller. So if you would have some issues, just let me know. I'll tell you how to do it, and it just works really nice. So today I tried Zealous, Werewolf, and Vampire. The only character which I haven't checked yet is Yudoku, but well, I would say that if you're okay with aiming with a controller, which honestly guys I am not at all, you can easily use the controller. And I was, for example, as a person who just in Beast Tower is always playing as Runaway, for me it was completely fine, honestly speaking. So, and Daria, in your, from your point of view, from your experience, what games do you prefer to play with gamepad and what was keyboard and mouse?
Maybe for gamepad, I prefer slashers mostly, and shooters for keyboard.
So you mean when you should use the mouse-like aiming, you prefer, of course, mouse? So you're not
Yes, yes,
really...
because I can't shoot from
You
gamepad.
see, honestly, I have the very same issue. I remember once a friend of mine who is, you know, told me a story about so it was funny when people who are good at playing shooters on gamepads, they come to some game expos and start playing games like Halo or some other shooter which is on a console, and most people don't it happens that some people who are in the queue are people without that experience and who play on keyboard or mouse only, and that they just are amazed how you can actually shoot things with your keyboard when you with your controller. And once
Yeah.
I also saw a brilliant video about a guy, if I'm not mistaken, he is from the USA, and he was the ex-marine, so he was an actual soldier, and he got a very bad injury of losing one of his hands. And I was just amazed how this guy was playing Overwatch with one hand on the controller, and he was doing really well. So somehow he was putting it below his chin, and just was, I don't know how he managed to do it with one hand. It was just seeing like a person is playing a piano and shooting things down, something like that.
Wow.
That's the situation. Still, guys, I just honestly for me it's still quite a mystery how people with a controller can shoot things and even making headshots. I know that lots of developers usually make a bit different aiming setup for a gamepad and for keyboard and mouse, so it's easier to hit things because you have a huge hitbox, you have some kind of small magnets which move your aiming point to your enemy. Well, I don't know if we need to do things like that in Beast Tower, because I would love to have a cross-play for this game. But what I would say that our current system, I believe, we'll just need to check it, is quite fine in both variants, because we tried our best to make shooting as easy as possible. Of course, we don't have any auto aiming or something like that, but you know, the hitboxes are, well, quite huge, and there is a special system that if you shoot near your opponent but not really far away, somehow the bullet detonates, exploding. That it makes easier to hit things. Why we did it? Not because we wanted to just make some kind of legal cheating, but the point is that, you know, as you can see from the video on the background, you just need to look 360 around you, and you have no other choice for making it easier for people for shooting than to making all these type of tricks in order to allow them not to suffer much from difficulties of such a gameplay. Okay, Daria, and what from your point of view, if we take Beast Tower, is it easy or not to shoot things and hit things when you're playing as Raider?
As a raider, maybe maybe for Zealous it can be harder than for Yudoku, I think.
Somebody enters them, he or she got damaged. So sometimes it's a good idea when you run away as Yudoku is to shoot just below your feet, because usually your chasers are following your road, because, well, it's a kind of a common thinking, and they just you can easily get into this gas, get poisoned, lose health while chasing ya, and that would make them, you know, lose all the HP before even noticing it. So that's a kind of a strategy which is quite working with this character. Okay, so I know, Daria, that Vampire is your, I believe, favorite beast, or even most favorite character, right?
Yes, I like it because I don't know why, but for me it's more comfortable for play as a vampire than the werewolf.
Yeah, and you see, from your point of view, when playing as a raider, how different and in what way different it feels when you play against vampire and when you play against werewolf?
Maybe a vampire is more unpredictable because it can hit you and it can fly away and then come back to you again. But if you face the beast, in most situations you will fight it till the end.
So you mean that werewolves are more, you know, catchy? If they got you, they are likely to kill you or just lose you. And when a vampire just can attack, go back and return back once more.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So also, you know, when we were developing the vampire, there were lots of talk about, you know, the fact that it's overpowered due to its flying mechanics. So I would just give our idea why we don't think it's so. But before that, if you don't mind, Daria, I just want to ask you once again. So, what do you think about the flying mechanics of a vampire? Is it so really strong that it should be changed, or do you feel it to be overpowered compared to the abilities of werewolf? What would say you?
I wouldn't say that because when the vampire is flying, you can shot him and it will knock down. But I also noticed some comments that People believe, it seems for people that vampire is much more stronger and his attacks he attacks fastly than the werewolf.
Well, I would say that in terms of the stats, they are completely the same ones. So the same amount of damage, the same amount of health, the same attack speed of hits, the same animation length, everything is just the same, just have different visuals, that's why it may feel that's a bit different. But you see, why we think that a vampire flying is not so overpowered. First of all, it's not flying, it's gliding. So when you fly, you always lose height. And in order to get upper, you need to climb. Or when you use a diving ability, you just fall on the ground and you need to go up once again in order to be able to fly. Secondly, one thing which people sometimes neglect is that werewolf has a sprint ability. What it means is that if you run for some time by a werewolf, at certain point you move on your force and you start running much faster, just about 2 times, maybe faster than you can chase almost anyone on the ground. And when you're playing a vampire, you should always be flying, and controlling a flying creature is a bit more complicated than a running one, honestly, because you need to think about the 3 dimensions of movement, while when you are running, you think about 2-dimensional movements when you're just on the one plane. And that's what, from my point of view, actually balances the situation. Because, we really want every beast to have some kind of a feature, and not like, okay, he has this ability and she has that ability, for example. No, it's a kind of a main idea which goes with the creature. So it's a kind of distinctive gameplay which just answers the question, why should I play this character? Well, in case of a werewolf, so you can actually run around the city very fast. So just you run. And vampire is about flying. And we just want to keep this gameplay contrasts as dramatic as possible, because, if we decided to make a character-based game with different chars and with different abilities, we should be implementing it, really, because just having about several werewolves, which are quite same ones, but have a bit different stats, I mean some different amount of HP or damage that they deal, or maybe some small things like built-in regeneration or stuff like that, we just try our best to play on contrasts, to make, that every character feels different. And that's why we decided that the vampire would be dramatically different compared to a werewolf. Okay guys, I believe we have just several more minutes left, so if you've got any questions, please feel free to drop us and we'll be happy to answer them. So, Daria, and just maybe to what really is interesting to me, because we just told and started showing vampire less than a month ago. What is the most typical question apart from flying one, which people usually ask in social media about the vampire?
To the vampire. Maybe would it be on the next playtest? Because people really want to try it and see it in the game.
Okay guys, so you know that our golden rule of working with the community is to be frank with you. So there is 2 options, or we either answer questions and say how it really is, or we just don't answer the question because we don't have a proper answer yet, or because we are just you know, not ready to tell things because, you know, we are still a work in progress so much that we even doubt that things would be done actually. About the vampire, I would love to let you get your hands on this creature as soon as possible, but there are a couple or several issues which we need to solve before it's possible to do it. And I'm not actually talking about the visual. So as far as community reaction works now, people are completely fine that it's not really finished one. I mean that it's great creature with even no textures and draft geometry. What we do care about most is that currently the vampire has a couple of really unpleasant bugs, because, you know, the creature turned out to be a really complicated one in terms of the movement systems. So it has actually 3 movement systems in one character. First of all, you just run around on your feet and jump. Then you climb buildings, werewolf style. And thirdly, you glide. Actually, you are flying. And when you transfer from one system to another, for example, you are gliding and then you need to jump from a rooftop to rooftop, sometimes some strange thing happened, like jumping in a wrong direction and so on and so after. Also, we made a special system that if vampire is damaged while gliding or diving, it just falls down on the ground, so a kind of a penalty for being shot, because, you know, it's really hard to shot a flying thing, especially if you're playing a werewolf and the only thing you can do is rush and jump on that and to able to hit one with your own body. And this system also needs some bug fixes. So yeah, and as soon as we are done with these gameplay problems, I would say that we might discuss and decide if we are ready to give you a try. So honestly, the more we develop games and the more is a game and the more we are talking to the community, it turns out that you are really cool ones and you always support us and you like the fact that we tell you how everything works out actually. And that's why you, if you are okay with, you know, such a, I would say, not finished visually, but gameplay nice and clear character, why not? Just let us know, and we already decided with Daria that we will make a kind of a post about that to figure out your opinion. That's why, yeah, so just honestly speaking, it would be maybe to most extent up to you. So if you vote for trying out the vampire, even if it's in a gray form, yeah, we will just consider that, honestly speaking, as soon as we fixed all the gameplay issues on it. Okay, so I feel that we are quite coming to the conclusion of the stream. So, Daria, won't you mind saying a few words to our players?
I would love to say that first of all I want to thank you all that you come and spend some time with us, and it was nice to have another stream.
Okay guys, so we hope that it was quite interesting for you, so don't hesitate to like and share this video, to sign up for our social media, to sign up for our newsletters, because we set up the news sending system, so you can just use the form which you can find in the description of this video. And every month you would get a big and interesting letter from us describing what's new happens around the game. So please follow the links and sign up. It would be just really a pleasure for us to sending you these emails, because we spent quite a time preparing them and making them really sound and solid and nice. So guys, thank you again for being with us, and the beast will come.